Welcome to our channel, the place where every secret is unraveled, every twist is magnified, and every shocking truth comes alive. Today we dive deep into the shadows of Beyond the Gates, where the shimmering facade of the Dupree family hides layers of deception, betrayal, and bloodstained secrets that threaten to tear everything apart. What begins as whispers behind closed doors spirals into a storm of violence that will change every life connected to the Gates forever. June was never supposed to matter. She was an outsider, a woman whose presence inside the polished world of the Dupree dynasty was nothing more than a fleeting accident of fate. Yet, fate can be cruel, and it handed June something far more dangerous than influence or wealth. By chance, she uncovered a truth so devastating that it could shatter the empire that Vernon had spent a lifetime building. It was not just a piece of gossip or a petty indiscretion. It was a secret drenched in betrayal, one so monstrous that the moment it slipped into the open air, the name Dupree would collapse under its own weight. For days June wrestled with the burden, her conscience tugging at her, her fear clawing at her throat. To stay silent meant becoming complicit in a lie of unimaginable proportions. To speak out meant becoming a target in a family that would not hesitate to crush threats. She faltered, then hesitated, but at last she chose her path. She could not carry the truth alone. She sought out Leslie, believing she might find an ally in the woman who had already been pulled unwillingly into the Dupree storm. June's decision sealed her fate. In the quiet of a concealed room, with shadows swallowing the corners, she whispered to Leslie the secret that had burned her soul raw. What she never realized was that another presence lingered just beyond the veil of safety. Martin, the ever-watchful guardian of the Dupree Gates, the loyal enforcer whose sole duty was to ensure that nothing escaped into the light, had overheard everything. He did not miss a word. Hidden in silence, he listened to the tremor in June's voice, the disbelief in Leslie's breath, and his heart pounded not from fear of exposure alone, but from the suffocating certainty that his own downfall was entwined in the secret she now carried. For Martin, the truth was poison. If June exposed what she knew, the dynasty would crumble, Vernon's power would disintegrate. Anita's grip would falter, and Martin's own name would not merely be stained but erased under scandal. Panic took hold of him first, a spiraling chaos that left him breathless in the shadows. But panic can harden into something darker, and as the night pressed down on him, terror evolved into resolution. He convinced himself of one cruel certainty: June could not live. The secret must be buried, and her silence must be permanent. He planned with precision, masking his murderous intent beneath the mask of reason. He approached June with false calm, offering a meeting under the guise of strategy. He told her there was evidence, documents that could solidify her case, proof that could finally anchor the truth in undeniable form. He promised her answers. The location was chosen with meticulous care: a deserted warehouse on the edges of the city, long forgotten, a place where echoes carried and shadows lingered like stains on the air. June, desperate for hope, desperate for something tangible to cling to, agreed. She did not see the trap, she did not sense the hunger in Martin's eyes when he spoke. She only felt the weight of her secret and the fragile relief of believing she was no longer alone. The night of the meeting was heavy, the air thick with the scent of rust and dampness. June stepped inside the warehouse, her footsteps brittle against the cracked concrete floor. The single bulb overhead flickered with erratic life, casting trembling beams that clawed through the darkness. She clutched her bag to her chest, her pulse quickening as she searched for Martin's silhouette. She expected the conversation to begin, a plan to unfold, but what awaited her was silence, oppressive and suffocating. Martin emerged from the shadows, his figure carved by the dim light, his gaze locked not with fear but with a burning finality. In that moment, June knew. Her breath caught, her instincts screamed, but she had no chance to turn away. Martin moved with the swiftness of a predator. His hands, once symbols of loyalty and service, became weapons of destruction. He lunged, and the warehouse filled with the sounds of a struggle, the sharp scrape of shoes against concrete, the muffled cries swallowed by his grip. June's scream tore through the air, a desperate, haunting plea, but it was cut short, strangled into silence as Martin's fury pressed down. Her body convulsed in the dim light, then stilled, her life extinguished in the chilling embrace of violence. When it was over, Martin's chest heaved, his hands trembling with both triumph and horror. He stared down at what he had done, at the lifeless form of the woman who only hours before had carried the power to destroy him. Now she lay still, her secret locked away in the grave he would carve for her. He dragged her body through the warehouse, the metallic scent of blood clinging to the stagnant air. He wrapped her in a tarp, his mind racing with panic and paranoia, his thoughts scattering in every direction. He had silenced June, but at what cost? The warehouse became his confessional, his sanctuary of guilt, as he struggled to erase the evidence of his crime. But fate is cruel, and fate was watching. As Martin labored in desperation, as he hauled June's body into the shadows and prepared to scatter the remnants of her existence, unseen eyes observed from the distance. A figure, concealed and silent, bore witness to the crime. Every movement, every act of violence, every drop of guilt was seared into the mind of the hidden witness. Martin believed himself in control, the executioner of secrets, but the truth was far more perilous. He was not the predator anymore, he was the hunted, his every action chained to the knowledge that someone else now held power over him. He left the warehouse thinking he had cleansed the threat, but the weight did not lift. Instead, paranoia dug its claws deeper into him. Every corner turned, every shadow lengthened, every whisper of wind became the sound of accusation. He replayed the murder in his mind again and again, the horror etched into his memory. June's face haunted him, not only as the victim of his rage but as the vessel of the truth he had tried to bury. He knew that secrets did not die so easily. He knew that the witness, whoever they were, now had the ability to unravel him completely. The Dupree family, blissfully unaware of the horror Martin had unleashed, continued their lives behind the Golden Gates. Vernon pursued his ambitions, Anita guarded her throne of influence, Leslie carried the weight of the revelation June had shared, and Danny navigated her storm of betrayals and heartbreak. But beneath it all, a new terror brewed. Martin's guilt began to bleed through the cracks of his control, infecting every glance, every interaction. His loyalty no longer seemed unwavering, his eyes no longer calm. Those who knew him best began to sense the shift, though they could not name its cause. The family fortress was no longer secure, danger had crept inside. June's disappearance did not go unnoticed. Questions began to surface, whispers curling through the gated community. Where had she gone? Why had she vanished without a trace? Leslie, who had been the last to see her, could not shake the dread that something unspeakable had happened. And though she did not yet know the truth, she carried her own fragment of the secret, a burden that made her both a target and a threat. The web tightened around everyone, threads of suspicion stretching in every direction. Martin found himself ensnared in a nightmare of his own making. He had killed to protect the family, to preserve the secret, to shield his own name from destruction. But in doing so, he had unleashed a greater danger. The witness lingered in the shadows, unseen but omnipresent, a phantom whose silence was more terrifying than words. Every moment Martin lived was a countdown to exposure, every breath a reminder that his power had slipped from his grasp. He was no longer the guardian of the gates. He was the hunted animal, running blind through a maze of lies, his predator waiting patiently for the perfect strike. And so the story continues, a tale of power and downfall, of secrets layered upon secrets, of the thin line between protector and destroyer. Beyond the gates, where wealth and ambition cloak the sins of the powerful, the true danger is not what lies hidden, it is what emerges when the shadows begin to speak. Remember to follow and subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next shocking turn.